The day I came home and discovered my son had sold the family farm while I was away, I didn't scream, argue, or even ask him why. I simply walked into the old barn, opened a dusty wooden cabinet, and pulled out one forgotten file that my late wife had begged me never to throw away. My son thought he had won. He had no idea that one old document would soon bring a sheriff to our front gate. If emotional family stories with unforgettable twists and meaningful life lessons speak to your heart, I'd truly appreciate you subscribing to Behind Dad. Before we continue, I'd also like to mention that the pictures shown throughout this story are creative visual dramatizations inspired by these events. They are not actual photographs from my family's life. My name is James. I raised my son, Daniel, by myself after my wife Margaret passed away when he was only 9 years old. That farm wasn't just land. It was every sunrise we worked together, every fence we repaired, and every promise I made to his mother before she closed her eyes for the last time. I believed Daniel understood that. I believed he loved the place as much as I did. While I was visiting my sister in another state, Daniel called only once. He said everything was fine and told me not to rush home. I trusted him completely. 3 days later, I drove through the front gate and nearly dropped my truck keys. A large sold sign stood beside the road. Strangers were walking across my fields, measuring fences and taking photographs. My heart felt like it had stopped beating. Daniel came out of the farmhouse carrying paperwork and smiling nervously. He said selling the property was the best decision for both of us. He talked about retirement communities, easier living, and a fresh start. I barely heard him. All I could think about was the promise I had made to Margaret. I quietly walked past him without saying a single word. Inside the old barn, hidden beneath a shelf of rusted tools, was the file Margaret told me would someday protect our family's future. As I picked it up, my young grandson Ethan appeared in the doorway and softly whispered, "Grandpa, Dad doesn't know what's inside that folder." I looked down at the worn folder in my hands, then back at Ethan. My grandson wasn't smiling. His little face was full of worry, and I could tell he had been carrying a secret that no child should ever have to carry. I gently placed my hand on his shoulder and promised him he didn't have to be afraid. He quietly admitted he had overheard his father talking on the phone with someone weeks earlier. Daniel had proudly said, "Once the farm is sold, Dad won't be able to change anything." Hearing those words hurt more than I wanted to admit. I walked back toward the farmhouse without raising my voice. Daniel followed me, still trying to convince me that everything had been done for my own good. He claimed the buyer had already paid a large deposit and there was no point looking backward. I calmly placed the old folder on the kitchen table. His confident smile faded the instant he recognized it. He whispered, "I thought that file was gone." That was the first time I realized he already knew exactly what it contained. Before I could open it, a pickup truck stopped outside. A man stepped out carrying another stack of documents. He introduced himself as the buyer's attorney. He politely explained he needed one final signature from me before ownership could officially transfer. Daniel quickly interrupted, insisting all necessary paperwork had already been completed. The attorney looked confused and quietly replied, "Sir, without Mr. James Carter's signature, this sale cannot legally close." Daniel's face turned pale. I slowly opened the old folder. Inside were original trust papers signed years earlier by Margaret and me. According to the documents, the family farm had been placed into a protected family trust after my wife's illness. No sale, transfer, or mortgage could ever happen without my personal written approval. Daniel stared at the papers in complete shock. Before anyone could speak again, another vehicle pulled into the driveway. My heart sank as I recognized the sheriff stepping out with an official envelope in his hand, walking straight toward our front porch. The sheriff walked up the porch steps with a calm expression, but the envelope in his hand carried more weight than anyone realized. Daniel tried to greet him first, pretending everything was under control, yet the sheriff politely asked to speak only with me. He confirmed my identity, handed me the court papers, and quietly explained that the buyer's attorney had requested immediate legal review after discovering conflicting ownership records. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Part of me still hoped there had been some terrible misunderstanding. There wasn't. The court documents confirmed that the trust protecting the farm had never been dissolved. Every page made it clear that I remained the only person with legal authority to approve any sale. The sheriff then turned toward the moving crew and instructed them to stop all work until the court settled the matter. One by one, the workers lowered their equipment and stepped away from the property. The sound of silence across those fields was something I will never forget. Daniel finally admitted the truth. Months earlier, he had fallen into serious financial trouble after investing in a business that failed. Creditors were demanding payment, and he convinced himself selling the farm was the only way to save his family. Instead of asking me for help, he forged ahead, believing I would forgive him after everything was finished. Hearing those words broke my heart far more than losing money ever could. My own son had chosen deception over trust. Just when I thought every secret had been uncovered, the buyer's attorney slowly removed another sealed envelope from his briefcase. He explained it had been delivered to his office years earlier with strict instructions from my late wife. The envelope was to be opened only if anyone ever tried to sell the farm without my permission. As I broke the seal and unfolded Margaret's handwritten letter, Daniel's knees nearly gave out. The very first sentence changed everything I believed about what my wife had known before she died. I unfolded Margaret's letter with shaking hands. Even after all those years, I could almost hear her voice. She wrote that she loved Daniel with all her heart, but she had noticed a dangerous pattern long before her illness. Whenever life became difficult, he tried to solve problems alone instead of asking for help. She feared that one day desperation might push him toward a decision he would regret forever. That was why she created the family trust. It wasn't meant to punish our son. It was meant to protect him from one terrible mistake becoming the end of our family's legacy. Daniel couldn't hold back his tears any longer. He admitted that every night after signing those papers he had barely slept. He kept telling himself he was doing the right thing for his wife and children, but deep inside he knew he was betraying the two people who had sacrificed everything to give him that farm. Looking across the yard, he saw Ethan standing quietly beside the old fence. My grandson wasn't smiling because his father had failed. He was crying because he almost lost the place where 4 generations of our family had made their memories. The sale was officially canceled, and the buyer accepted that the property had never legally changed hands. Daniel cooperated fully with the legal process and faced the consequences of his actions. More importantly, he stopped hiding. He worked honestly, repaid every debt one step at a time, and slowly earned back the trust he had broken. It wasn't quick, and it wasn't easy, but real forgiveness is built through actions, not promises. Every weekend, Ethan and I returned to the fields together, and before long, Daniel began working beside us again, not as the owner, but as a son determined to rebuild what nearly disappeared. Today, when the sun rises over those fields, I don't just see a family farm. I see the promise I made to Margaret still standing strong. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments because your words may help another family choose honesty before it's too late. Share this story with someone who believes trust is earned, not demanded. Thank you for spending this time with me on Behind Dad. Remember, the greatest inheritance you can leave your children isn't land or money. It's the courage to tell the truth before karma has to do it for you.